Hi, welcome to another Tiny Tuesday. It's Christy from My Artful Adventures, and we are going to make some fun little hidden paper clips today. I guess maybe I should qualify that and say that they're semi-hidden because we will be able to see half of it. And I'm using these 6x6 papers. You can use scraps on these kinds of things because you don't need a whole lot. I've got so many of these old 6x6 paper pads that to me they kind of are scraps, and so this is what I'm going to use today. I'm going to use this part, and I want this to be the front of the house. And so we want it to be kind of small. If you follow me at all, you know how much I love little houses. I've got printables that are little buildings and to make villages and all kinds of things that we've got going, and I love houses. So why not make some little paper clips to go in the things that we're making. These are great for journals, or you could stick them in a card, whatever you want to do with them. So we're going to just have some fun today. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut a strip off at 1.5 inches. Just going to do 1.5 inches. So see, if you only need 1.5 inches, you've probably got plenty of things you could use for that. And I'm going to cut this at 4.5 so that I've got plenty of length to work with, because we could always, cut it down if we want to, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half. I want this striped part to be the outside of my house, and I'm just going to fold this in half, just like this. I'm going to stick my paper clip in here, and I think I'm going to put you can do it either side, but I think I'm going to do the long side so that it has more stability in here on the inside. So we're just going to do that. I'm going to stick some glue. You could probably even use a little bit of hot glue. It would catch real fast. I just don't really use hot glue that often. I'm just not a fan of it. And I don't know, to me, it sticks for a while and then it just comes off. So I don't know, maybe that is user error, who knows. And I'm going to kind of push inside in here. You could probably use a piece of tape in there too and kind of secure it. That would have been probably a smart thing to do. So we've got it this long. And the other thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my little scissors and I'm just going to round the corners here. Because, you know, these corners that we always have, if we round them off just a tiny bit, they just seem to catch less on different things, right? So we've got that. And the one side of your paper clip is going to stick out, okay? But just your one side. It's got a little bit of glue on it because I started to do this and I messed up and I had to start again. Okay, now I'm going to use the other side of this to be the roof, okay? So I'm going to cut this piece to be, you want it about 1/2 inch wider so that you can have at least 1/4 inch on each side to stick out. And so I'm going to do it at about, and I want my flowers to go this way. Well, yeah, I think I do. We'll put them this way because this way, you know, they are obviously going this way. So since we've got these stripes going this way, let's do those horizontal. Then we'll have one horizontal and one vertical. And I want this to be, I'm going to start with about 1 1/4 inch high. And we can move it down. I'm just going to go ahead and cut the whole strip, you guys. We'll just cut the strip down. And now okay, so now this was 1.5 inches. I'm going to cut this at 2 inches. Okay, now we're going to be able to, there's a stamp, a rogue stamp just out there. So now this is going to be our little roof, okay? And now you can cut this and you can angle up here. And, you know, this is just going to be however you want. Now, I want this to be a square. You can either cut this to where it's going to angle like this or make a square top. And I just want this to be a square top this time. So I'm just going to cut a little bit off. And we could actually do this and flip it around this way and make sure our other side is exactly the same. You know, a lot of these little tricks transfer from one project to another, right? You could sit around making a whole pile of these. These would be fun. Okay, so now we've got this, and now this is, we've made the main part of the house big enough that we could have like a 2-story house. If we want to pull the roof down some, we could do that. All we would have to do is just trim these corners a little bit more. And I think I may do that. I think I might trim that off so that I know where it is. I'm going to just snip it, and then I can go back and turn it, and if I want to, I could kind of, you know, round it off again, just so we don't have those corners that I just find that rounding stuff just gives it a little bit more ability to not catch on things sometimes, and that's the only reason that I do that, because we're not going to see it. It's going to be on the back of the house, right? So now we can just decide, you know, where we want to do that, but by making it the height that we did, that gives us the opportunity to do that. Now I don't want to do a 2-story one on this, so I'm just going to glue this one down just like that. And you might just kind of decide where you're going to put it, and maybe even make a little mark. Oh, I had a pencil right here a second ago. And of course now I don't. Okay, well, we'll just go ahead, and that's not important. We don't have to really mark where it is. Well, I'll just start my glue under there. And now we're just going to glue all of that here, right across, like that. And we'll stick that on, we'll stick back down there. Make sure your roof is extending off a little bit. You can straighten it out however you need to. There we go. And see, you can see that paper clip on the other side, and that's fine. Okay, so we've got that. And then if we want to, we could add a little bit of a trim across there. So I've got this little bit of trim. I think I'll put this along here. Isn't that cute? Just something. So you could, this is a great way to use up little scraps and goodies that you might have. I think I'll trim it right about here. And a lot of times I like to put a little bit of glue on these edges to keep them from, you know, fraying. And it's going to dry clear, so that'll be fine. And then we'll just put it down here. So I'll just put my glue, I'll just add my glue across here. And a lot of times Fabri-Tac is, now this glue that I'm using is that reptile glue, and it'll stick it down. Fabri-Tac is nice too, because any of these trims, or especially if they're, you know, lace or fabrics like that, then those are perfect to use that. That might take a second to kind of grab. Yeah, that's going to take a second. I should have used that Fabri-Tac. In fact, it's sitting right here. Let's just do it, because we don't have all day. We'll just put a little dab of that across there. It's just a little bit thicker, and for some things like this, it just is easier to grab that stuff. Okay, excellent. Now we can do some little doors and windows. You can add, you know, after you do this part and you get the basic part of the building done, you can do whatever you want to. I think I'm going to snip a little door. Now I think I want this kind of straight, so I'm just going to do about half. I'm going to measure on the other side. It's easier. I'm going to do like about 1/2 inch for a door and see how, oops, that's a scoring blade, and see how we like that. Yeah, I kind of like that. That'll be cute. And so now we can just put that on there, and you know, you might even do it like this and hold it up there and see how high you want your door, and just snip it off across here and glue that, and then we'll put some windows on. I think I'm just going to use, I've got a scrap of white sitting over here, and I think I'm just going to use that for some windows. But you can just play around, and you don't have to, you know, just do whatever you want to. Add as much or as little. Okay. So I just have this little, I just had some instructions on it, and I'm just going to cut out some of the windows. I'm not going to measure these. I might want to straighten them. And, you know, if they're wonky and you don't get them cut real straight, that's okay, you guys. Because you know what? Wonky things are fun. How many of you like some of those little wonky houses that you might see that people draw and paint? I love them. Okay, so we got that on there. And then I'm just going to put these here. Cool. I'm kind of wishing I had a pair of tweezers sitting here. I probably do, but so I'm just going to put these on here. And they're not super straight, and that's okay. I don't mind. Let me know if you like wonky things. Okay, so we got those on. Let's see if I've got something in my bag of goodies we could use for a sweet little doorknob. I keep a whole bag of my embellishments like this because this is one of my go-to things that I am always using stuff from. Here's some. I don't really like any of those. Some of these are going to seem awfully large for that. I've got all these enamel dots and stuff. And you know what? You could even take something like Nuvo drops and do a little dot. Or you know, maybe we could do, oh, here's something red. I found some red ones. I found some red. They're darker, but we can use one of these small ones and put it right there for a doorknob. Let's do that. We'll just put it right here. So we've got a red door. And a lot of times you might even want to use a dot of glue in there. Okay, so now let's use a little marker. I've got one of those twin tone Tombow markers that's got a very small nib on it. Let's use this and let's just go around our door. I can tell I got some glue that came out there. That's not marking very well over that glue. I've got another marker sitting here, but and this is awfully small, but I'm afraid the other one is almost going to be too big, the little nib. This will just bring a little bit of definition. And there's my wonky window over here. And you know what? If you want to kind of just sketch like this around stuff, it makes it even a little bit more artful. If you're having trouble and you are, you know, not able to really get straight lines, make it look like it's supposed to be that way, kind of a messy look. And now we can go ahead and draw some lines in for our window panes. We could do that. And we'll just make them across. And as you can see, they're not perfect, and I'm okay with that. We've still got a fun little house that we made, and we could still add other things. So there you go. That is a fun little way to make some houses, and it looks like I could even snip off a little bit more of this top. That's kind of tall. I'm going to snip it off a little bit. There, I like that better. There you go. How's that? I hope you like this idea, and I hope that you'll try some. These would be fun to add to your journals. And you know, if you're using a different, if you're using supplies that you've used in your journal, that would be super fun, because all of a sudden, then you have a coordinated little house hidden paper clip to go with whatever you're making. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. Thanks, and I will see you on the next Tiny Tuesday. And I hope that if you've liked this, that you will subscribe to the channel and also like the video. I'll talk to you later. See you next time. Bye-bye.